Hi everybody, my name is Mark C. Daly. I'm an immigration lawyer with Pro Forma Immigration Attorneys, and you are watching one of our videos through step-by-step immigration law. This is our new company that we've opened up in Santa Fe, New Mexico, and we are focusing on N400 citizenship applications today. We want to assembling all your documents and then filling out the forms and then sending in the forms and then finally attending your interview for citizenship here in the United States. Let's get into this. Now, I do N400s all the time. I've been doing them since 1995, actually. And there's been a lot of changes, especially with the online filing that we love. But I'm going to be using the forms on this video so that you can see the layout of the forms. Because when you're doing an online data entry, you're actually building a form. Immigration's going to get a form on the other end when it's time for your interview. With the online form, it's just a series of boxes, right, that you answer and put in the data. For this tutorial, you're going to see the actual form. We're going to go through the actual form, and I'm going to show you how to do that. What's true is also I still file a lot of paper forms for people. It's a completely valid way to get your application in front of immigration. But the problem is with the filing of a paper form, you lose the opportunity to really track your data with immigration. So for that reason, I do like to do online filings. Okay, well, let's jump right into it. So I'm going to assume you know nothing about the N400, and we're going to start with the real basics. And that would be the Google machine, right? So we're going to type in here N400, just like that. And the first thing that comes up, you want to make sure USCIS.gov application for naturalization. So here we are, the N400 application for naturalization on the USCIS website. And actually, October of 2021 becomes the new fiscal year for immigration for the 2022 year. So the fiscal year, we are 13 days into the fiscal year for 2022. So this is what we're looking at for 2022 right now of our N400 application for naturalization. So we'll see here, here's the File Online button, right? And so the File Online button, then you're going to need to sign in, set up a password, and do all that stuff, right? So we're not going to jump into that right now. And then there's also a thing here to check your eligibility. And the check your eligibility tool is also a way that you can answer a bunch of questions, and they will spit you out at the end and say, yes, you're eligible, or no, you're not eligible. What we're going to do is, it says go directly to the application for naturalization N400, right? That takes you back to there. So what we do over here, we go back to the main page for our N400, and we're just going to keep going down. Now, the online filing benefits, yeah, case status alerts and secure messages, that's great. It's really good to get that. See all case correspondence, that's really helpful. Check your case status and update personal information. That's also really helpful to do during one of these N400s. And upload evidence. This is the thing that has some problems. It's really hard, especially if you have a lot of evidence you need to upload. It's hard to do this sometimes. That's a lot of times why we choose to do paper. And then we'll just double back around and set up an online account and get all this data into it. So there's your eligibility tool. And then we come down here to the form details, right? So you got your form and document downloads, and here's the actual N400, right? So this is the actual form that we fill out. And you'll see here this is an encrypted document and cannot be edited. Okay, well, we want to be able to edit this. We want to enter our data right into this. So we're going to open it in the desktop app, which is Adobe Acrobat. And then it's going to open up like this on your desktop, right? From here, then what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to download this into your hard drive, save as, and then it'll go and do it. So do that right now. Make sure this N400 is just not sitting out there nowhere, right? You want it to be on your hard drive, and then you want to be filling in this N400 that way. But what we're going to do is we're going to go back to this part that has our document checklist. I'm going to start you on their document checklist. Let's get all our documents in one place. Now our document checklist is right here. This is a wonderful document checklist. It's going to flag all the possible issues, and it'll even help you look at some of your eligibility issues. I'm just assuming that you're eligible, but this is going to take you through some of the red flags that could knock you out of your eligibility. So all applicants must send the following 3 items with their N400 application. So you better get these. A photocopy of both sides of your permanent resident card. If you've lost the card, submit a photocopy of the receipt from your I-90 application to replace permanent resident card. And a lot of people, they say, well, I want to get citizenship, but I don't have my green card. You file an I-90, you get your green card duplicate going, and then you send in the receipt of that with your N400. Okay, 2. A check or money order for the application fee and the biometric service fee as stated in M479. Current naturalization fees, enclosure in the guide. Okay, yeah, they have a big naturalization guide. They also have the instructions, but I'm just going to tell you what's going on because it's quicker. Write your A number on the back of the check or money order. All right, that's how I like to do it. I like to actually use my check with the A number on it because I get that check back. And then I have a physical, when they scan it and when they cash it, they put their A number and their identifier, case number, onto the check. So I actually have a copy of the actual check, which I like. You don't get that kind of data when you do a credit card charge, but it's so much more convenient. You may also pay using a credit card. There's no additional fee when you do so. N400 is the only form you can pay for by credit card using the G1450 authorization for credit card transactions. So if you want to do that, you just fill out that form and you put it in there with your N400. Okay, 3. If you reside outside the United States, okay, right there. Most people don't. Most people do reside in the United States. But if you reside outside the United States, 2 identical color photographs with your name and alien registration number written lightly in pencil on the front of each photo. For details about the photo requirements, see Part 5 of the Form Guide to Naturalization N400. If your religion requires you to wear a head covering, your facial features must still be exposed in the photo for purposes of identification. Okay, so I always put the photos in with my application. Look, they say you need to have 3 things, and then they say 3. If you reside outside the United States, I don't care if you reside in or out. I'm going to have 2 identical color photographs included on my N400. Send copies of the following documents unless we ask for an original. A lot of people want to send their originals or are concerned about that, so we're just talking about nice, clean copies. If an attorney or accredited representative is acting on your behalf, send a completed G28. Well, when I'm representing someone for an N400, I'll always include my G28 on that. If your current legal name is different from the name on your permanent resident card, okay, that does happen sometimes. Send the document that legally changed your name, marriage certificate, divorce decree, or court document. So that's important. They want the names to all be the same. Ideally, your name on your birth certificate is going to be the same on your permanent residency card, and that's going to be what it'll be on your application for your N400. But a lot of times no way does that happen. So they want to be able to trace your name from your birth certificate name to the name you're going to be using on your permanent resident card. And because you are seeing a judge in in a federal court atmosphere, then when you're swearing in, they can actually do a name change as part of your N400, and you'll see that on the form when we go through it. Evidence that your spouse has been a U.S. Okay, if you're applying for naturalization on the basis of marriage to a U.S. citizen, send the following 4 items. Evidence that your spouse has been a U.S. citizen for the last 3 years, right? So on the basis of a marriage, I don't have to wait 5 years. I can just do it in 3 years. And so if that's true, you need to prove that you're still in a good faith marriage to get the benefit of that 3-year filing. So you need your birth certificate, if your spouse never lost citizenship since birth. So that's usually the great way to prove citizenship for your spouse is just keep throwing your birth certificate or a certificate of naturalization or certificate of citizenship or the inside of the front cover and signature page of your spouse's current U.S. passport or Form FS 240 report of birth abroad of a citizen of the United States of America in case they were actually born out and they had to go process their citizenship through an embassy. So this is important. Don't get your application kicked back. You're going for 3 years. You want to speed it up, and you don't show proof that you're married to a U.S. citizen, proving they're a U.S. citizen. Don't do it. Send in proof of that. Your current marriage certificate, great, and proof of termination of all prior marriages about your spouse, divorce decrees, annulments, or death certificates. And you might be saying, well, I've done all this already. I got my green card through marriage. Why do I have to prove all this stuff up again? Well, because they can always come back and charge you with marriage fraud, and they want to be able to do that. So that's why they're going to make you prove your marriage again. Good faith. Your current marriage certificate and proof of all termination prior marriages, documents referring to you and your spouse. Okay, here it goes. Tax returns, bank accounts, leases, mortgages, or birth certificates of children, or IRS certified copies of income tax returns that you both filed for the past 3 years, or an IRS tax return transcripts for the last 3 years. So you'll see this laying on of tax returns. There's a kind of a double-edged sword here. They can also want to prove that you're a good moral character by paying taxes. So not paying taxes is a problem when you go to your interview for an N400. So this is a heads up. Heads up now, documents. Let's get some tax returns together. If you haven't filed, back file. You can back file jointly. You talk to an IRS person around that. But they're going to be looking for that. They're going to be looking for it. So if you got a problem with taxes, you might want to talk to a lawyer about that. Okay, if you were married before, send proof that all earlier marriages ended. Okay, we already covered that. If you're currently in U.S. military service seeking citizenship based on that service, send the N426. Okay. If you've taken any trip outside the United States that lasted 6 months or more since becoming a lawful permanent resident, send evidence that you and your family continue to live, work, and keep ties to the United States. Whoa, whoa. Okay, this could be a big deal document-wise. Now, when you're going to be traveling outside the United States more than 6 months as a permanent resident, there's a legal presumption that you have let go of your permanent residency. So if that happened, but you got back in the country, they still want to see if that 6 months was a break in your permanent residency, such that they can revoke your permanent resident card. They can make you have to prove permanent residency again. There's a lot of things, a lot of places they can go with that. So if that's true, then you're going to really want to put some good evidence on that you did not mean to break and let go of your permanent residency. So the continuity of continued to live, work, or keep ties to the United States. Creating that continuity is a document intense thing you need to do. So choices: IRS tax return transcript or an IRS certified tax return listing tax information for the last 5 years or the last 3 years if you're employing basis of U.S. marriage citizen. So, and then rent or mortgage payments and pay stubs. This is going to be showing your domicile here because you were paying rent, and pay stubs. Where were you working? Where were you earning your money? Were you paying taxes? And, live, work, or keep ties. You can also use letters from people and prove it that way. There's all different other kinds of ways to prove it, that you have that continuity. If you have a dependent spouse or children who not live with you, send any court or government order to provide financial support and evidence of your financial support, including evidence you've complied with any court or government order, such as canceled checks, money and receipts, court or agency printout of child support statements, evidence of wage garnishments, letter from the parent or guardian who cares for your children. So they want to go deep. Again, this is a good moral character issue. If you do not pay your child support, you've abandoned your child, and that's bad. We will not let people get citizenship in the United States who are child abandoners. So if you definitely are not providing filed child support, and look, a lot of times it's really cut and dry. Okay, I share custody with my kids. I have a child support order. Here's all the times I've made my child support payment. Here's all the canceled checks. Here's the child support payment garnishment printouts, whatever that looks like. Now, a lot of people don't have real formal child support orders. They're doing it because they want to Maybe they're not on the birth certificate. Maybe for whatever reason, there's no legal, you know, showing that you have a child. So you have to list all your children on the application. So they're gonna flag, are you paying for your children? So if you don't have proof that you've been paying your kids, maybe you've been doing it in cash or whatever, then you're going to need to talk to someone about getting that evidence up, because this is going to be a basis for them to refuse you citizenship, is based on this. So if you've got issues or questions around this, you should come in and go for at least a 15-minute consultation with us. And you can talk to an attorney for 15 minutes and figure this out. Okay, moving right along. If you've ever been arrested or detained by any law enforcement officer for any reason and no charges were filed, send an original official statement by the arresting agency or applicant court confirming that no charges were filed. So, arrest and detention without charges. A lot of times people get tickets for public drunkenness or whatever. They never go to court. They just pay the ticket, or trespassing or whatever. That's what they're talking about. But you still need proof that there were no charges put against you. So you have to go to the police department, the sheriff's department, whatever. That's the arresting agency they're talking about here. And you're going to go and get that printout from them showing that no charges were filed, but you were arrested. And if you don't do that and you lie on this application, that's a whole nother reason for them to deny you. So a lot of these petty offenses then do not form a bar for you to get citizenship, but lying about it does. So we got to make sure we are honest and truthful. And if you have any weird pangs or red flags around this, just call a lawyer and figure out how the best way to do this for you. Now, if you've ever been arrested or detained by any law enforcement officer for any reason and charges were filed, that means you're going to court, right? Send an original or court-certified copy of the complete arrest record and disposition for each incident, dismissal order, conviction record, or acquittal order. So we're digging in deep now. If you have criminal background, this is one of the ways that they keep people from getting their citizenship. They require a lot of details, and look, they're saying an original or court order certified copy. Okay, so we're just sending in the copy for this application. We're bringing the original with us to the interview. Same thing with the arresting agency, right? But they want to see all this. And if you have a crime, you might want to talk to a lawyer about that, because you need to know if you've been having a green card this whole time and you committed a crime and you got out on a bond or whatever, ICE didn't come and pick you up, they can have a second bite at the apple when you go into your interview and they say, oh, you committed a crime? This is a removable offense. Hello, ICE, come here. And then ICE comes in and they go, excuse me, orange suit, let's go. So you don't want to be pulled out of an interview by ICE. Never. You want to be ready for that if that happens. If you have ever been convicted or placed in an alternative sentencing program or rehabilitative program, such as a drug treatment or community service program, send all of this: original court-certified copy of the sentencing record for each incident and evidence that you completed your sentence, an original certified copy for a probation or parole record, or evidence that you've completed an alternative sentencing program or rehabilitative program. So a lot of times, a lot of tricky immigration lawyers will say, oh, well, you know what? You had this cool deal in criminal court where you actually didn't have to plead guilty. It was a pre-plead sentencing of you to a drug rehab, a domestic violence class, some sort of probation, some sort of parole, some sort of alternative sentencing program that after you complete it, then you come back and they dismiss everything and you've never pled. Well, in theory that really works, but the Immigration Service still wants to see all those documents. So again, it's a good moral character thing. So why were you put into the sentencing program? What was going on for you? Oh, you had a problem with drugs. Oh, okay. Well, let's talk about that in your interview. What kind of drugs were you? When's the first time you used it? When was, on and on and on and on. So They want to get all this data so that they can disqualify you from citizenship. They're going to ask you, they're going to say, so what happened in that drug rehab program? Why were you in there? What was going on? How many times did you smoke weed? How many times, on and on. And, controlled substance convictions. If you admit that you've used a controlled substance, it's basically the same as a conviction in immigration world. So you got to be really careful about this. You definitely want to talk to a lawyer if you've got criminal stuff going on with your naturalization. If you've ever had any arrests or convictions vacated, set aside, sealed, expunged, or otherwise removed from your record, send an original court-certified copy of the court order vacating, setting aside, sealing, expunging, or otherwise removing the arrest or conviction, or an original statement from the court that no record exists of your arrest or conviction. Note, if you've been arrested or convicted of a crime, you may send any countervailing evidence or evidence in your favor concerning the circumstances of your arrest and or conviction that you would like U.S. Citizenship and Immigration Services to consider. So this is what we do as lawyers. We are going to rehabilitate you. We're going to show that you've rehabilitated. Because again, we're talking about good moral character with a citizenship application. So old crimes, oh, that was expunged. And they told me I didn't have to tell anyone on my job applications. And I told me that I didn't have to, disclose this. Well, this is the federal government, and you actually do have to disclose it. If you don't, they're just going to say, well, you misrepresented. You lied to us, right? So you want to give everything over, but at the same time, you also want to show that you've rehabilitated, that I am a person of good moral character, that this event was one-off, or it was a bad time in my life, and look what I've done since then, blah, 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 right? So this is a way that you can actually fortify a criminal record if you have petty crimes or even more serious crimes. You be truthful about it and honest. If you suffered domestic violence as a child, if you have PTSD, if whatever it is, all that has to be weighed in. So, and if you've got this, again, this is for your lawyer to help you with, because this is a heavy lift and it's very, very scary. But you can do it. You can go and get citizenship if you've got criminal convictions. It just has to be done with a lot of care. If you've ever failed to file an income tax return since you became a lawful permanent resident, it is a no-no. Send all correspondence with the IRS regarding your failure to file. So you might be on a payment plan right now with the IRS, and they're going to say, oh, but you failed to file. So you got into a payment plan. Well, there's still bad moral character. So you need to be careful with that one as well. They're going to be looking for that. If you have any federal, state, or local taxes that are overdue, send signed agreement from the IRS, right? Documentation that you are the current status of your repayment program. So if you're in arrears, if you haven't paid, you're like an active, non-taxpayer. Oh, they're not going to like you. They're not going to like you. So you want to really get in there with that and give them that information. If you're applying for a disability exception to the testing requirement. So some people, we're going to get tested in civics and you're going to get tested in English language. And so some people can't speak English and they can't learn civics because of medical disabilities, where there's a whole separate track that you want to go down to prove a medical disability, which is very difficult to do, by the way. But that whole thing I'm showing in a different video. So go into that. But if you have an N648 medical condition for disability, I would definitely recommend hiring a lawyer, because if they're not done right, and they're normally not done right, even when they are done right, immigration hates them. They hate disability waivers. Why do we want you to be a citizen when you can't even speak English? Why do we want you to be a citizen when you don't even know government, right? So it's a negative bias. So you want to do this right. So I would definitely say lawyer up for an N648. If you do not register with the Selective Service and you are male, are 26 years old or older, and lived in the United States in a status other than lawful non-immigrant between the ages of 18 and 26. So if you're illegal and you've been here, you need to have registered with Selective Service. Selective Service is the draft. That's where we call up people in times of emergency to go fight our wars, right? So they want everyone to be on call. Um, and so if you didn't do that, what they're saying is if you didn't do that, you got a problem. All right. So if you haven't done that and you're male, you're 26 years or older, which means now you're too old to do the draft. And 3, you live in the United States in status other than non-immigrant. Well, if you're a non-immigrant, you're going to be going home after your H-1B, so you don't need to go into the draft. But if you're just living here between 18 and 26, you need to register for the draft. Okay. If you know anyone who's out there who wants to become a citizen at some point, register for the draft. A status information letter from the Selective Service. So that's going to say, that it's going to give you an opportunity to register, and a lot of times it just make you wait 5 years after 26 to prove that you're a person of good moral character when you have not registered for the draft, because they want you to register for the draft. Is it too late? Maybe it is, maybe it's not. I just tell my people, just register. Just get a registration in, even if you're 80. Just say, yeah, I'll register. They won't accept it, but at least you can show that you tried and that you're willing. And because again, these good moral character questions are sometimes based on the whims of the immigration official who's actually doing the interview. So that is the document. Don't you like this? Isn't this great to really bring up a lot of the issues? For me as a lawyer, these are what I get calls on. People who have really clean cases and are doing their own work, they don't have a lot of these problems. So it's easy for them to knock off an N400, just have a lawyer look it over. But with other people, when you have a lot of document requirements like this, and you've got crimes, and you've got divorces, and you've got child support, and you haven't paid taxes, ooh, and you didn't register for the draft, ooh, you got a lot to deal with. So anyway, these are the hot points. And this is how I do it. When I'm working with a client, I go through my document checklist, and then I go through their questionnaires, and I look at their data, their names, their residence, their travel history, all of their marriages and kids. Everything wants to be, for me, when I'm filling out an N400, I want all that information data organized so that I can quickly fill the forms in. Okay. Now, I would even recommend you do that. You organize your information in one place using a questionnaire, right? But that takes extra time. None of us have time, so most of the time we just jump right into filling the form. And if you need some question answered, you stop, you go get it, and then you not keep going on the form, right? Okay, great. So there's our documents that we're going to be working with. You're going to assemble those documents. Okay, and then the next thing here is the current naturalization fees. You want to know what the fees are. So it's $640 with an asterisk, right? Biometric service fee, $85. 2 asterisks here. Total $725. Okay. You must send the $725 fee with your application. Pay the fee with a check or money order or by credit card. And then USCIS may require that you appear for an interview or provide fingerprints. So we're definitely going to be doing that. That's a biometrics fee. Except, first one, if you're applying for a naturalization based on your own service in the armed forces of the United States, no filing fee is required. Thank you for your service, and let's get you through this. Don't worry about the money. If you're filing on the basis of your service in the armed forces of the United States, do not send the biometrics service fee for fingerprinting with your application. So 75 years or older or armed services, you don't need to send in the biometrics. Now, the naturalization eligibility worksheet instructions. Look, if you don't qualify, don't fill out the form. Don't do it. Or if there's a question around it, talk to a lawyer around your eligibility. But this naturalization eligibility worksheet, because you go through a true or false and it's got stop, I'm at least 18 years old. True. Not true. I'm not at least 18 years old. Stop. You're not eligible to apply for naturalization. You do not need to be at least 18 years old for military naturalization or Section 329A. So it's this kind of a deal where you're going through, been permanent residents for stop, so you have this complicated eligibility workshop that I'm not going to go through, but it is a way for you to gauge and know if you are actually eligible for citizenship. And it's nice. It is here. Okay, great. So we're coming down. We're back here on the N400 page, right? And so we're going into our forms and documents. Here's the form, but look here, instructions to form. Well, let's take a look at the instructions to the form. Okay, instructions for application for naturalization. All right. What is the purpose of Form N400? It's an application to become a naturalized U.S. citizen, and it's in the statute. You have to use an N400 form. So under the law, you got to use this form. A guide to naturalization. It is the guide to naturalization, which is there, which talks about all the different requirements. But we're going to general eligibility requirements now. You may apply for naturalization when you meet all of the requirements to become a U.S. citizen. General eligibility requirements are the following. 1, you are at least 18 years of age at the time of filing, except active duty members of the U.S. Armed Forces. 2, you are a permanent resident of the United States for a required period of time. Required period of time, that's going to be 5 years, or 3 if you've got your permanent resident on marriage and you're still married. 3, you've lived within the state or USCIS district where you claim residence for at least 3 months prior to filing. This is a jurisdictional issue on which, court, basically, the federal court is separate in the United States. There's different circuits, and so the jurisdiction dictates the type of law they're going to impose on you when they're looking at your case. 4, you've demonstrated physical presence in the United States for the required period of time. Physical presence is that half of the time you're supposed to have your permanent residence, you've actually been living in the United States. So if it's a 3-year deal because you're married to a U.S. citizen, then you need to show 1.5 years of physically living in the United States. If it's a 5-year deal because you got your permanent resident through employment or some other way, then you got to show 2.5 years physically present in the United States. So when you're going in it and you're going in this travel information, they're really going to be looking closely at your travel information to make sure that they can knock you out based on travel. You've demonstrated continuous residence for a required period of time. So remember in the document checklist, they were showing if you have not resided for more than 6 months in the United States, if you've been out of the United States for more than 6 months, you're going to need to show the continuity of residence was maintained. So that's where all those documents come in. You demonstrate good moral character. We've been talking about good moral character all through this. So that is very clear. And they're saying you demonstrate. You got to prove you have good moral character. That's something you need to show up with. So if there's something bad, you got to come up with some serious evidence to outweigh that. You demonstrate an attachment to the principles and ideals of the U.S. Constitution. Right. So that means you need to know about the U.S. Constitution. So you need to do that civics piece and understand the basics of our government, how it all functions, the 100 questions, right? And that you are supportive of it, right? So I believe in the principles and ideals of the U.S. Constitution. I like that. I want to support that, and I want to be living here because I believe in that. You have to demonstrate that. So that means you have to say that at one point or another in your thing. You got to demonstrate it. You got to say, I love America, right? You demonstrate a basic knowledge of U.S. history and government, also known as civics, as well as an ability to read, write, and speak and understand basic English. So there's the civics test and there's the English test, right? So that's what I'm saying. If you learn the civics, you can say with more authority, I believe in this form of government that the Constitution is set up. And we have other videos on the civics test as well as speaking and knowing a lot of the words that you need to pass the basic English test. And 9, you take an oath of allegiance to the United States. Some applicants may be eligible for a modified oath. So the oath of allegiance to the United States, we'll cover that when we go through the actual form because it's on the form. But it's basically saying I will defend the United States from all enemies, foreign and domestic, and I will, take up arms and I'll do work of civil importance and all this other stuff. You have to be able to say that. Now, if you're a pacifist and you really don't believe that, then you're going to have a hard row. It's going to be hard for you. There's exceptions, there's modified oaths, but you want to find out how to do that and take that on. I've known people to do it. I've helped people do it. People do it, right? But it's a big deal. It's actually a big deal to do that. Naturalization testing. One of the requirements for naturalization is to take the naturalization test to demonstrate that you're able to read, write, and speak basic English, and you have basic knowledge of U.S. history and government, right? But here are the exemptions. You are not required to take the English language test if you're old and you've been living here a long time, then you don't have to take the test. 50 years of older and lived 20 years, you do not have to take the English language test, but you do have to take the civics test in the language of your choice, all right? Time of filing, you're 55 years of age or older and live in the United States as a permanent resident for 15 years. So you're older but lived here less years. Again, you do not have to take the English language test, but you do have to take the civics test in the language of your choice. And then finally, 65 years and then 20 years of living here. You do not have to take the English language test, but you do have to take the civics test in the language of your choice, right? So the way this works is that, when you go in and you have the age and you have the residence here, they're supposed to immediately, not make you do the English language test and then give you the civics test in the language of your choice. They're supposed to do that. But sometimes they'll go ahead and give you the English language test anyway, just to see if you can do it. So, and then you get all flustered, right? So make sure that if you've got this situation that this is really working for you. If you qualify and exempt from English language test based on your age and how long you've lived in the United States, you should answer yes to at least one question in part 2. So that's how you flag them on the form, right? And then the medical exception to the English language and civics test, right, is this form, N648, medical certification for disability exceptions. So that's what we're talking about. These are hard. You want to get help with these because they're definitely hard to do. Who should not file the form? Okay, we looked at that eligibility thing on the document. And then the general instructions are here. And then, downloading the forms for free. They talk about that. Each application must be properly completed, signed, and filed. And USCIS will not accept a stamped or typewritten name in place of a handwritten signature. So a legal guardian may sign for a mentally incompetent person. So I like to sign my forms in blue ink so they can tell that they're original, because they'll reject them if they think they're stamped. The filing fee, the evidence we're talking about, we went through the documents already. Biometric service appointment, you're going to have one of those. Copies, you're going to use photocopies. Translations, yeah, you need a translation for a foreign language document for sure. And how to fill out the N400, type or print legibly in black ink. So again, what I like to do is I'm going to encourage you to fill out the PDF form using the computer, and then when you get it all filled out, print them out, and then go to the online application and fill out the online application from your forms, because you'll fly through, right? If you have a lot of criminal records and you have a lot of documents you're submitting with it, I would not use the online filing. I would file it on paper, and I would just make a scan of the whole thing and, send it in that way. Express mail. Answer all questions fully and accurately. And look, as you're going through this, if you don't know an answer, that's when you might want to really look at a video like this or consult with an attorney as well. Let's see. Early filing. An applicant filing under general naturalization provision may file his or her application up to 90 days before he or she would first meet the required 5-year period of continuing residence as a lawful permanent resident. So that's cool. You get an early 90-day window to file your application, get a little bit of a head start. And it's also true for the 3-year period as well. Okay, forms divided into 18 parts. So we have the eligibility part, information about you part, other names, right? Social security, gender, date of birth, how you became a lawful permanent resident, country, citizenship. Here's a developmental disability question, right? Exemptions from the English language test. We just talked about that. Accommodations for individuals with disabilities or impairments, right? Contact information, information about your residence, right? Where you've been living, information about your parents, biographic information, categories and definitions for ethnicity and race, your height, weight, eye color, hair color, employment, schools, time outside the United States, marital history, right? Children, there it is. Information about you, applying for naturalization. Oh, these are items number 1 through 50. These are all the horrible things that you may have done. Torture and polygamy and all this other kind of stuff. Drugs. And then you sign it. If it's been an interpreter, which it might be, their information's going to be there. And then the contact information of the person preparing this application, if other than the applicant. So if you have someone preparing it for you, they're going to fill out their stuff, like a lawyer. Signature of the interview. Look, do not complete the part. You got to wait. Wait for it. Do not complete part 16, 17, 18. The USCIS officer instructs you to do at the interview. Right. Then you got your oaths. But this is where the oaths of allegiance are. Right. Required evidence. Okay, we've already gone through the required evidence. Right. So I like that other checklist, but it's all restated right here very clearly. All of the evidence. The filing fee, we've looked at that already. Biometrics, payment, and payment by credit card. A fee reduction. You may be eligible for a fee reduction to qualify for the reduced fee. Your household income must be greater than 150% and not more than 200% of the federal poverty guidelines at the time of filing based on your household size. Federal poverty guidelines are established. So you can get a freebie for filing. If you're poor or you're really going through a hard time, you can file this thing without a filing fee, right? And there is a form here, the I-942P, income guidelines for reduced fee, and they basically ask you to put forward, proof of your budget and how much you're making, how much you're spending. So there's that. Fee waiver, same thing as 912. The reduced fee and a complete fee waiver. And where to file. This is very important. You always want to make sure you're filing it in the right place. And then when you're going, you've got to change your address with these people if you move. So you want to make sure you know about address changes for sure. And then the processing information, they're going to kick it back if it's not done right. And then once they get it, they'll check for completeness. Then they might request more information, right? And then request for an interview. We may request that you appear at USCIS for an interview. They're going to request that you go to an interview. There's very few interview waivers. And then they give you the decision, all right? And then attorneys, U.S. forms, penalties. If you willingly and knowingly falsify or concealing a material fact or submit a false document with the Form N-400, we can deny the form and deny any other immigration benefit like your green card In addition, you may face criminal prosecutions and penalties provided by law. So this is why if you have any fear about answering a question truthfully or submitting a document in, you want to contact a lawyer, right? So I want to cover this USCIS compliance review and monitoring. They put it in writing, and I've been doing this over 20 years now, and I've seen it all, and they will do compliance review and monitoring. Check this out. They put it in writing. By signing this application, you've stated under penalty of perjury that all information and documentation submitted with this application is complete, true, and correct. You also authorize the release of any information from your records that USCIS may need to determine your eligibility for the immigration benefit you are seeking, and consent. I say it's okay for USCIS to verify such information. They do have legal authority to do this to ensure your compliance with applicable laws and authorities. USCIS may verify information before or after your case is decided. What does that mean? Okay, agency verification methods may include, but are not limited to, review of public records and information, contact via written correspondence, the internet, fax or other electronic transmission, or telephone, unannounced physical site inspections of residences and locations of employment, and interviews. So your whole world could be, hello, this is immigration. Hi, Mark C. Daly is applying for citizenship. We just want to talk to you. He listed you as an employer. Is that true? On and on and on. So they have a lot of power, and you're saying it's okay. So just know, again, we do not want to lie, and we want to be really upfront with what we're saying on here. It's rare that they'll do this, but if you hide something, they can open the gates of hell and unleash the Kraken on you if they want to. Subject to the restrictions under 8 CFR 103.2 B16, USCIS will provide you with an opportunity to address any adverse or derogatory information that may result from a USCIS compliance review, verification, or site visit after a formal decision is made on your case, or after the agency has initiated an adverse action which may result in revocation or termination of approval. This is due process. So they're saying, we're going to go ahead, we're going to make a move, and we're going to do a scorched earth on you if we want to, but we will give you the opportunity, in fairness, to come back at us, explain, give more information, explain what happened, why things look so bad. So you'll have that. And it might be after the termination of your case. So there are due processes, and that's true with the N400 because they do allow you to go into federal court quickly if you need to, if this whole thing blows up and they deny you or they denaturalize you later on. And yes, it is privacy. So they're saying that, we're going to be giving them to other agencies, but basically no one else. You can only get the information through a FOIA. And down here, you're going to grab your form, right? We've looked at the document checklist. We've looked at the instructions. Now we go into N400 itself, the actual form. Now you want to open this in the desktop app for sure, and you want to download and save this sucker on your hard drive. So you'll see up here this little guy. Click that. All right, so we're going to go through this application for naturalization. It's 20 pages. The other videos have gotten you all set up with all of your documents and your eligibility. So now you know you're eligible and you have your documents. So you want to knock this thing out. Starting with your A number here, and you're talking about your eligibility. You're at least 18 years of age and have been a lawful permanent resident in 5 years. Most of you will do that. If you've done marriage, then it's going to be the 3 years, and your spouse has been the 3 years. You're lawful permanent resident, and you're the spouse of a U.S. citizen, and your U.S. citizen spouse is regularly engaged in specifically employment abroad. If your additional address is outside the United States, you're filing under Section 1319B. Select the USCIS field office from the list below. Would you like to have your naturalization interview? So sometimes you are out of the country and you are a lawful permanent resident and your spouse is the citizen and they're working out of the country and you are regularly working out of the country. You've preserved, hopefully, your residence and you are okay to file, you're still eligible, even though you haven't been living in the United States for half of the time. They have half of the time in the 3-year requirement for residence, year and a half has to be physically present in the United States. Half of the time of the 5-year requirement, 2.5 years, has to be physically present in the United States. But there's an exception here, and they want to know if you're going to be going under this exception because you've been living with a U.S. citizen who's working abroad. Or applying on the basis of qualifying military service or other. And there are some other bases, which we won't get into. Information about you. Okay. Now name, your current legal name, and then your name exactly as it appears on your permanent resident card if applicable. So if you have 2 last names, put the 2 last names here. Sometimes you have a hyphen, sometimes not. First name, middle name if applicable. If you have no middle name, just leave it blank. And if your name is exactly as it appears in your permanent resident card, so you want to put that there as well, exactly as it appears. And if there's difference here, then of course you're going to need to show why. Other names you've used since birth, aliases, maiden names, fake names. You want to use those, and if you've got a problem with fraud or misrepresentation or false documents, you might want to call a lawyer on that. All right. Name change optional. I told you a little bit about this, but you're in front of a judge, they can do a name change, which is great. Read the Form N-400 instructions before you decide whether or not you would like to legally change your name. Would you like to change your name? Yeah, go. And then put in all this information. Okay, U.S. Social Security number, online account number. You may not have this yet. Maybe you do. And this way, you probably won't have an online account number yet if you're filing one by paper. Gender, period of birth, date you became a lawful permanent resident. That's going to be on your card. Country of birth, country of citizenship. And then here's where you go with the exemptions and the exceptions for the English and the civics. We covered that. So answer that if you're seeking one of those and know that you're going to have to prove that. Accommodations for individuals, disabilities, and impairments. So this is if you've really got a physical disability, they want to get the appointment ready for you. Go ahead and indicate what that is here. All right. Contact information, so you need to give them good contact information, and if it changes, you need to update it. That's very important. Information about your residence. There's so much that rides on residence in this process. You need to be living where you've been for 90 days, right? So to present, they already fill that in, so you got to make sure you got more than 90 days back that you've been living here in this residence, or else you're not ready to file for your naturalization. And then current mailing address is different from the address above, and that will happen sometimes. Information about your resident. Now look, one thing about this form and all the immigration forms, if you do not put any data in here, let's say you don't have a work telephone number, you need to put N/A into this box. And a lot of times, they'll let you put NA into the box like that, and that's great. But on some of them, they won't let you do that. So, like here, the state N-A, it's not going to let me do that, right? And they hate it when there's empty boxes. They hate it when there's empty boxes. So don't make them hate you. Fill in all the boxes with NA if it's not got data in it. So you'll see when I do mine, sometimes I can't put the NA in the box. I print them all out. I get my black pen and I just write NA, and I'm going to fill in all the boxes. And that's going to When the examiner is going through your application and they are checking it out and they see all those NAs in there, they're going to go, "Wow, okay, good. This is all complete. There's no omissions from it." Current mailing address, information about your residence number 2, they're going back in time. Physical address 3, going back in time. 4, going back in time. And if you have more residences, then at the very end of this form, there should be, let's see, no, they don't have one here. If you have more than 4, then you do an addendum and list those addresses more than 4 years back. Because what they're saying is going 5 years back. So most people don't have more than 4 residences in 5 years. Most people is going to be fine for this for the last 5 years. But if you use additional space, if you need additional space, if you need extra space, use additional sheets of paper. And when you do the sheet of paper, write N400 on it, put your A number on it, put your name on it, and then say part 5, question 1, F, right? Then your last one is E, you go F, and put the information in the same order on that piece of paper. Okay. So part 6, information about your parents. If neither one of your parents is a U.S. citizen, then skip this part and go to part 7. So I'm applying for naturalization, and they want to know about your parents and if they were married before your 18th birthday. Whether your parents were married or not married can impact the proof you have to show if you are wanting to naturalize through parenting, through the parents. So you're going to have to answer this yes or no. Information about your mother. Is your mother a U.S. citizen? Yes or no. If yes, she is a U.S. citizen, complete the following information. If no, go to 3. Okay, so then you're going to go fill all that out. Same thing with father. If he is a citizen, complete the information, blah, blah, blah. If not, go to part 7. Categories below to conduct background checks. Here's your ethnicity, your race, your height, eye, and hair. Information about your employment and schools you attended. Okay. List where you have worked or attended school full-time or part-time during the last 5 years. Provide information for the complete time period. So if you're my age and you don't have to deal with your high school or anything. I haven't been to school in the last 5 years. So that's pretty cool. But it definitely will put my work history. So that will go in there. But employer or school name, and put those in. Go back 5 years. Okay. Time outside the United States. We talked about this a little bit. How many total days, 24 hours or longer, did you spend outside the United States during the last 5 years? So this is going to be tough to see. And if you've spent a lot of time out of the United States, you're going to want to put a copy of your passport in with your application to let them see your entry and exit dates to prove, because you've got to demonstrate that you've been here half the time that you're supposed to be, that you have your full physical presence, eligibility satisfied. How many days? How many trips during the last 5 years? How many trips? List below all trips of 24 hours or longer you've taken outside the United States during the last 5 years. Start with your most recent trip and work backwards. If you need extra space, use additional sheets of paper. Now, there are ways to check this on the CBP, the Customs and Border Protection website. They give you an I-94 printout, and so your travel data might be on there to help you. Otherwise, this one you're going to maybe have to give it your best guess if you don't remember. But look, they're looking for days, so that gives you the tip. They want accuracy. So if you travel a lot of people get stuck here because they just throw up their hands and they go, "Oh my God, I've traveled so much. How am I ever going to get this piece of information together?" Well, they're going to deny you if you don't have it together. So do the work. And if you do not have the required amount of days physically present in the United States, you need to wait. You need to wait before you file this so that you get those days here in the United States, and then you can go ahead and file it. So this is a good thing to go through. Information about your marital history, obvious. If you're married, member of the armed forces, and then how many times you've been married. And you're going to include the annulled marriages and marriage to the same person, which does happen. If you're married now, current spouse, put that all in. Marital history. Is your current spouse a U.S. citizen? Answered yes. Answered number 6. Go to 7. 6, okay, I found yes. When did your current spouse become a U.S. citizen? Remember, they want to make sure they've been a citizen throughout the whole time you have your requirement as a resident. And then your current spouse is not a U.S. citizen, then put their information here. How many times has your current spouse been married? All right, they want to know about that. Current spouse has more than one previous marriage. Provide that information on additional sheets of paper. Okay. Name of my current spouse's prior spouse, so they give you the one here to fill in, but more than that, then you're going to list those out. And this might tip them to good faith marriage, bad faith marriage. If the person's been married a lot, you might need to put more evidence that your marriage is actually a good faith marriage. How my current spouse's marriage ended with the prior spouse there. If you were married before, provide the following information about your prior spouse. So now you go through all your stuff. Here we have about the children. Now look at this. Indicate your total number of children. You must indicate all children, including children who are alive, missing, or deceased. Children born in the United States or in other countries. Children under 18 years of age or older. If they're currently married or unmarried, living with you or elsewhere. Current stepchildren, okay? Stepchildren, legally adopted children, and children born when you were not married. All of them comes in. A lot of people lie. They've not told their spouse about the other kids, and they're thinking they're going to get away with it. All right? Be very, very careful if that's your situation. And then, yeah, all your children, sons and daughters. Children is for 21 and under. Sons and daughters are 21 and older. So that's what they're talking about there. Regardless of age. There's your kids. Children. Okay, additional information about you. Now we go through 1 through 21. If you answer yes in these questions, include a typed or printed explanation on additional sheets of paper. So they want you to explain, right? Have you ever claimed to be a U.S. citizen in writing or any other way? Ooh, that's a bad one. Have you ever registered to vote in any federal, state, or local election in the United States? That's bad. Ever voted? Okay, you're not supposed to vote until you're a citizen. So if you're applying for citizenship and you voted, that means right there you definitely have a problem. If you have to say yes to any of these, you would definitely want to call a lawyer. Do you have or you ever had a hereditary title or an order of nobility in any foreign country, like Sir Paul McCartney or whatever? If you've answered yes, you're willing to give that up. Paul, are you going to let it go? You know, Sir Elton John, whatever. You got to do it. Have you ever been declared legally incompetent or confined to a mental institution? Owe any overdue federal, state, or local taxes? They're coming at you. Called yourself, I'm a non-U.S. resident on a federal, state, or local income tax return since I became a non-permanent resident. If I'm a permanent resident, I am a U.S. resident. If I claim that I'm a non-U.S. resident, they can revoke my underlying basis for my green card and send me out of the citizenship, burping and chirping on the curb. Have you ever been a member of or involved in any way associated with an organization, association, fund, foundation, party, club, society, or similar group in the United States or in any other location in the world? This is very broad. And this is a way for you to actually score points. If you are a member of a service organization, if you're doing Habitat for Humanity work, if you're working in a domestic violence shelter, if you're in the chess club, if you are, like, any kind of club, they can get to know you, they can understand who you are, and you can earn points. If you adopt cats, if you adopt children, whatever that is, this is your opportunity. Remember, you got to prove good moral character. Here's a shot where you can lay in some proof of your good moral character. They will read all this stuff, the name of the group and the purpose of the group. So if you have, and look, if you got some old criminal records, maybe it's time to join some groups. Just saying. Maybe it's time to join some groups and do some good work in the world. Ever been a member of the Communist Party, Totalitarian Party, terrorist organization, Republican Party? Oh, no, they don't have that down in here. So that's an immigration lawyer joke. We're all really mostly progressive. Have you ever advocated either directly or indirectly overthrow of any government by force or violence? Donald Trump? Hey, did you do that? Well, you can't even be a citizen, Trump, so we're going to have to deport you. Choose your shithole country of choice. Have you ever persecuted? Oh, he wants to go to Norway. Okay. Have you ever persecuted, either directly or indirectly, any person because of race, religion, national origin, membership in a particular social group, or political opinion? Again, these are heavy-duty questions, and if you have to say yes, then there's certain waivers for some of this stuff, but you're going to need to talk to a lawyer. Most of the people are just straight up down no with all this stuff. Here's the question about Nazis. Which a lot of Americans are actually part of. So, but you can't do that because you're just a permanent resident wanting to be want to be a citizen. Ever involved in any way with any of the following: genocide, torture, killing, trying to kill someone, hang Mike Pence, badly hurting or trying to hurt a person or a purpose. Like a lot of Americans should be deported. Let's just face it. Trying to force someone to have any kind of sexual contact or relations, not letting someone practice his or her religion. These are the questions they're asking here. Participating in the following groups: military, paramilitary, police, self-defense unit, vigilante group, a group of people who act like the police but are not part of the official police. Like, we have so many Americans doing this crap right now. It's crazy. And they're not supposed to be doing it. They wouldn't even be citizens. We should deport American citizens. I think that's what we need to do. Anyway, rebel group, guerrilla group, militia, insurgent organization, ever a worker, volunteer, soldier, otherwise serve in the following: prison or jail, prison camp, detention facility, labor camp, any other place. Okay. Were you ever part of any group? Did you ever help any group, unit, organization use a weapon against any person, threaten to do so? Ever sell, give, provide weapons to any person? Help another sell, give, or provide weapons to any person? Yeah. Receive any type of military, paramilitary weapons training, recruitment people into groups. Ever use any person under 15 years of age to do anything that helped or supported people in combat? All right. And then we go to 22 to 28. All right, and we're coming into like the criminal grounds of inadmissibility, where they would want to see all the documents, right? Arrested or convicted. Have you ever committed, assisted in committing, or attempted to commit a crime or offense for which you were not arrested? Okay, so here is a big thing around smoking marijuana, because, like in Colorado and a lot of states, smoking marijuana is legal, but it's still listed as a controlled substance under the federal guidelines. So from the federal point of view, smoking marijuana is possession of a controlled substance, because you're taking it in, you're possessing it. And so if you admit to having smoked marijuana, even though you're not arrested for it, that is committing a crime for which you were not arrested. And they're going to want you to say yes here for that. And if you say yes for that, you're going to open up a big can of worms. It's going to be very difficult to prove. One, you could be a drug addict, so that's not going to be a person of good moral character. And you may also have a removable offense in that possession of a controlled substance is a ground of inadmissibility, and you can be deported for that. It's a ground of removability, depending on how much you actually possessed. It can be fatal to your underlying green card. So if questions around this, you really need to clear it with a lawyer. You don't want to lie. You don't want to lie because that's even worse. But you would want to talk to a lawyer and clear that. Have you ever been arrested, cited, or detained by any law enforcement officer, including any immigration official or any official of the U.S. Armed Forces for any reason? Right? And if you say yes, then you're going to have to write your little page about what happened, all right? And you might need help doing that so you don't make it worse. Ever been charged with committing, attempting to commit, or assisting in committing a crime or offense? So that goes even, broader than doing the crime, an attempt, assisting, right? And then here we go. Have you ever been convicted of a crime or an offense? So this is where you would go into court records now. If you hit a yes here, they're going to want to see the court records. All this stuff you can get with police records because there's not necessarily a court case against you. But down here, and with a conviction, yeah, so they're going to want to see the copy of that court record. Here's the alternative sentencing program, which they want those documents as well. Ever received a suspended sentence? Ever been in jail or prison? Sometimes you don't know if it's a jail or not. Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. Sometimes I'll click no, and then on a separate piece of paper, I'll say, well, I was in this, holding pen under the Philadelphia Eagles Stadium because I was drunk. I don't know if that a jail. Then you're not admitting it, but you're also not hiding it. Right. So, and if you got to do something like that, you definitely want to have a lawyer help you with that because that can be nuanced. But you don't want to admit to something that you haven't done. If you answered no to all questions, skip this. If you answered yes, complete this table. All right. So this is a criminal table, criminal chart, a way for them to quickly organize and see if you're forgetting anything, because remember, they're going to be taking your biometrics, so they're running your FBI check, and God knows what other databases they're going to be accessing for you when they're doing your fingerprints. They might even show up at work. They might even go all to different places. So, they have a lot of leeway to check you out. So you want to list everything on this table, and if you need extra space, use additional sheets of paper and provide any evidence to support your answers. Right? Of course, you're going to be having evidence, either arrest records or criminal convictions from a court. But they want it to be organized like this so it's easy for them to put down the information. Why were you arrested, the date, where it happened, and then the outcome. No charges filed, charges dismissed, jail, probation, etc. Right? So, now part 12, additional information, 30 through 46. Okay. Now these are ones where we have, grounds of inadmissibility. Some of these are reasons to deny your green card. So you're going in there as a permanent resident. So if you say yes to one of these, you got a double whammy, right? Not only will you not get your citizenship, but you may not be able to keep your green card. So if you're saying yes to any of these, you got to be really careful. Habitual drunkard, prostitution, controlled substances, married to one person, more than one person at the same time, polygamy, married someone in order to obtain an immigration benefit, marriage fraud, right? Help anyone to enter, smuggling, gambled illegally, receiving income from illegal gambling, failed to support your dependents or to pay alimony, made any misrepresentation to obtain any public benefit in the United States. Right? Real problem. And then, have you ever given any U.S. government officials any information or documentation that was false, fraudulent, or misleading? So, this can sink you right here. But if you admit it, there might be waivers available. So again, if you have to hit yes on this, that means you want to talk to a lawyer to find out if there's a waiver available, how bad it's going to be, and how to present this information to the immigration. Have you ever lied to any U.S. government official to gain entry or admission into the United States or to gain immigration benefits while in the United States? Yeah, lying to U.S. government officials to gain entry or Immigration benefits is a big no-no, and a lot of times people will sneak in and they'll get the fake Social Security card. They might even get a fake green card, right? Um, but you're not necessarily lying to a U.S. government official, especially if you're just filling out a work, document. But so that is a nuanced, where you might say no and then say, but I got a fake Social Security card at the swap meet in order to work in the United States. So there are ways to still keep your green card and get your citizenship when you've done that, but it's a very nuanced situation. You want to present the right documents. You want to talk to a lawyer about that. Ever been removed, excluded, or deported from the United States? Have you ever been ordered removed? Okay. Ever been placed in removal? Are removal pending against you right now? So have you served in the armed forces? And then they have a lot of armed forces questions. And then here comes your selective service question, right? Are you a male who lived in the United States at any time between your 18th and 26th birthdays? 18 and 26. Oh yeah, I did, but I was it says this does not include living in the United States as a lawful non-immigrant. I was illegal. I didn't know I had to register for the draft. Well, anyway, you click yes there. When did you register for selective service? Oh, I didn't. Not applicable. If you answered yes, but you did not register with the selective service and you are still under 26, you must register right now. Or 26 or 31 years of age, 29 years of age if you're filing under the INA Section 319A, okay, the 3-year. But you did not register with the Selective Service, you must attach a statement explaining why you did not register and provide a status information letter from Selective Service. So in the document checklist, I also talked about that. So we've covered that, but that's something you want to clean up. And sometimes they'll say you got to wait till you're 31 years of age because that's going to be 5 years of bad moral character that you've got, and we'll consider your application after 5 years you've been good. Then we go to 45 through 50, and these are the citizenship questions around supporting the Constitution and form of government, the full oath of allegiance, willing to take the oath of allegiance. Are you willing to bear arms? Okay, if you say no on bearing arms, that means you need to go with one of those waivers. Are willing to perform non-combatant services, or perform work of national importance. You want to be able to say yes to all these. You definitely want to be able to say yes to all these. Read under penalties for signing and lying. And then you sign it here. Select box A or B. Applicant statements regarding the interpreter. Okay, so you have an interpreter coming. Then I can read and understand English, read and understand every question, instructions, and my answer to every question. That's what most people are going to say. But if you need an interpreter, then you're going to hit this one, and then you're going to speak the language. And then here's the preparers, the name of the preparer here. And then here's the certification saying everything's true. And your signature. Right. And then here's your interpreter spot. They're going to put their information in, mailing address, contact, and your interpreter's language and signature. And then the preparer, so if I'm doing it, then I'll do the preparer part. And I'll put in all my information. And then here's the question if you're an attorney. I'll check yes, I'm the attorney, and I will sign it. And then that's it for the signing. It says here, signature at interview. Don't sign this part. Don't muck up the form. 16, 17, or 18. U.S. officer instructs you to do so at the interview. So that is it on the form. And then here's the oath of allegiance. Does this look familiar? Those are the points you just checked yes on above there. So they want you to say that in front of them at the interview. All right. And then they're going to have you sign this down at the interview to finish the deal. All right. Very nice. Now the next thing, you've got your form filled, you've got your documents done. Now we want to go through just the mechanics of getting this thing actually physically filed with immigration. So when you're filing with immigration, paper filing, right? It's pretty easy to do at this point because you've just filled out your form, right? You go to where to file. Oh, the edition date here, 9/17/19. Double check the edition date on your form. Sometimes the edition date updates and the form has it on here, so just double check the form that you've got the right edition date on there. And it's on the bottom. And then you generally have two options for filing your N400 online or by paper. So filing your N400 online, again, you set up the account. You're going to put all that data, all that information, check all those boxes. Online, it's going to build the form for you, and then you're going to upload your documents. Now, filing your Form N400 by mail. If you're applying based on it being current former member of the military, go to Section 3. All other applicants use the charts below. All right. So here's where you figure out your address. If you live in these states here, right, then you'll file it here. And we recommend USPS, U.S. Postal Service Express Mail, because they have set up this special post office box for N400. So the only thing in this post office box is N400. If you're using FedEx, UPS, or DHL, they're going to go to this location, Suite 100, N400, box 21251, basically, and it's a street address. They're going to be mixed in. It's going to be delayed, whereas with this, it goes right to the box. So a little bit of a hint there. That's why we use this. So I'm here in New Mexico, and I file it here at the Dallas Center. All right. And military members down there. Filing fee, we've already looked at this. The filing fee, checklist of required information, little quickie here, permanent resident card, marriage certificate, military exemption, military orders, citizen spouse employment abroad, 2 passport style photograph if you reside outside the United States. I put them in anyway. I don't trust this. Just saying. Then there's special instructions here. Guide to naturalization before filing this form. And then this is all biometrics. Nothing here to see. But we got your addresses. We have your forms. And we have now your documents, everything you need for the N400 application for naturalization. And like I say, once you do this, if you're still feeling like you're not confident to send it in or you want a lawyer to look it over, we do provide that service for you. We have a 2-hour form and document review that we provide. It's $949. And you can sign up for it. We have a link in the box right below where you can go to the landing page and sign up for it. And you can choose the calendar and choose the time slot that you'd like to have for that. Pay the fee right online. And you can also do a 15-minute consultation if you want to check out to make sure it's all legit. That's fine. There's an appointment for a 15-minute there. Or you want to just call. You can call us and talk to us. We don't do free appointments online, but you can call anyway, and we'll tell you, well, give me your email address and I'll send you a link so you can sign up for it. And that's how we do it. We do everything on Zoom in this office for step-by-step immigration law. And we look forward to meeting you, and we look forward to working with you. And I hope this has been helpful to you. Take good care.